Welcome to Better Cybersecurity, the ISF podcast. I'm your host, Steve Durbin.
ISF Chief Executive Steve Durbin is an expert in leadership, business culture transformation, and cyber strategies for today's top enterprises. I'm producer Tavia Gilbert. Today, Steve speaks with James Wilkson, managing partner at AEC Global Search Consultants, an executive search and advisory firm. Together, James and Steve discuss why today's leaders must be flexible and emotionally intelligent, who belongs in today's boardrooms, and how leaders can protect their personal brands online. Steve also asks James to look into the crystal ball.
So in our world today, we often talk about resilience in terms of firewalls, encryption, zero trust. But as we navigate an era of pretty unprecedented geopolitical shifts and digital acceleration, we're reminded that the most critical infrastructure in any organization isn't made of code, it's actually made of people, and specifically the leaders who sit at the helm. So how do we identify the individuals capable of steering a global firm through a crisis? How do we vet for integrity in an age of digital masking? And perhaps more importantly, how do we move from a transactional view of talent to one that prioritizes long-term legacy? Now, joining me today to unpack the architecture of leadership is James Wilkson. James is the managing partner of AEC Global Search Consultants, and he's spent a very long while at the intersection of executive search and organizational strategy. He's known for his human-first philosophy and a pretty strong commitment to accountability in a sector that often moves too fast for its own good. James, absolute pleasure to have you with me today.
Thank you very much, Steve. I appreciate it.
Now, James, I'd like to start with the concept of the executive risk profile. When you're looking at a candidate for a C-suite role today, are you finding that the definition of a safe leader has changed as the global risk landscape has become more volatile?
Definitely. We're in an unprecedented time right now. We're at this intersection. We've been here multiple times. You yourself, being a cyber and technology expert in leadership, have known we've had these shifts throughout our careers. When I started in the search business, I started with a telephone, some books, some newspapers, and a yellow pad of paper and a pencil. So when I came out into the world, we were still very analog, very human focused, but real quickly, computers hit our desks, followed by the advent of all kinds of different technologies. Obviously, the internet was about to be upon us. It was just a couple of years out. And very rapidly, we've had these massive shifts in workflow, in adoption of better robotics and technology and manufacturing and so on. But AI brings a whole different animal. From an executive perspective, the most important thing we look at in a C-suite or any executive leader for that matter is, do they have foresight? Do they have flexibility? Are they capable of adapting to this rapid innovation? And you can't resist. If you resist it, your organization will struggle or even ultimately fail. So you do have to be ready to adapt. And I'm saying the same thing that you're hearing everywhere. So I'm not saying anything more exciting, but I'll tell you what we measure for. We measure for, do you still have soft skills? Are you still strong in EQ? Do you still have the ability to become relatable? Because I'll tell you one thing we need more than anything, and that's strong leadership from a perspective of what is our purpose? Where are we going? But I would say that looking at someone that is capable of communicating, capable of relating, and not overly resistant to change, but very much on point with technology, AI, and change is not the end all. That is not the ultimate way we're going to deliver products and services to one another, but it is shifting for sure.
Are those leaders in short supply?
Yes.
Why is that? See, it's something I sort of very often struggle with, because people will very often say to me, they'll talk about some of the things you've mentioned, some of the soft skills, and they'll say to me, how do I get those? Can I go and buy them effectively? Can I sort of read up on them? But for me, they're the very essence of leadership. If you can't relate to people, what on earth are you doing trying to aspire to lead?
I've looked at some of the work you're doing actually, and I think the point that you're looking for here and the point that I look for when I'm looking at people is, how resistant are you? How easily frustrated are you by the alteration of the way our new generation is looking and examining at workplace production I think many leaders now understand you can't act that way. Ironically, though, there is a certain validity to what they're saying. You have to be able, when you come into the workplace, people are coming in so much more knowledgeable because of how rapidly they can acquire information. Whether that knowledge is permanently burned in their brain or not, who knows? But what we do know is we had to work pretty hard to find out anything. It takes about 5 seconds to utilize an AI tool or Google for that matter to learn something about anything. So, what's important to understand is there's a balance in leadership that really needs to be practiced. It's the openness to the generational processes that happen behind us and understanding that you have to still find a way to communicate and relate. Your very next wave of leadership is coming from folks that had a very instantaneous, rapid growth. And we weren't given that when we were younger. So we really are accustomed to, I did my time, I worked hard, this is not how we do it. Those types of things, those frustrations, while people are saying they're adapting as a leader, they truly are still anchored. So get rid of the anchor. Let go, get some training on opening yourself up to not being so resistant to what 30 to 40-year-old managers are doing, our 25 to 30-year-old up and comers, our even 40 to 45-year-old mid to upper level management shift. Those folks, they still need to be trained. They still need to learn what it is to run an organization. But you can't relate to them if you think it's exactly the way it was in the 50s, 60s, and 70s. So I do speak to a number of leaders, recruit, move, acquire, variety of different things that are very adapted. And that's what I look for. But it's amazing how many I have to interview to get there. Training is critical. You can't just turn on a switch. You do need some training. But it's pretty easy to turn on the switch if you just let go. Let go of what you went through and understand what they're going through. They're looking at you, looking for you to be able to understand that, no, we are going to use social media. We are going to tell everyone and anyone that'll listen what our thoughts are way before we've been asked. You got to encourage that. They don't hold back as much in today's generation. They're more likely to tell you when they're irritated.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And I've always seen it as something of a two-way street. I think that what the more mature leaders can bring is that experience. They've seen a lot. They've had to endure. What the younger ones bring is that immediacy, the energy, the different way of doing things. And for me, the magic happens when you put the two together.
Agreed.
It's not about keeping them separate. So for organizations listening to this, we're thinking, where are these two guys going with it? For me, I would say you have to be making decisions that involve multidisciplinary teams of people across multiple ages, across multiple cultures, multiple areas of sexuality. The more you can put into the mix to really stir it up, to get things going, as opposed to just relying on AI or just relying on technology-based tools, because the magic happens when you combine it all.
Agreed. I'm in that same camp. I think AI, without a doubt, is going to continue to accelerate and alter how we think, but just like anything else, it's just going to be an extremely robust tool down the line. Right now, it's not quite as robust as everybody thinks it is, but it is great. I use it daily. It's just humans are completely unpredictable. They're fluid, they're changeable. And that's what the whole point is, right? Well, the AI technology will enable us to get certain things done consistently. Exactly. But at the end of the day, everything we're doing is still to serve what humans want, what humans desire, what humans expect. So I think over time, just like anything else, we will have another very major arc. And then that arc will turn back to exactly what you just described, which is what's happening here in our heart. What do we want to do? So we can get there quicker in some cases, but it'll just open levels of things we've only dreamed of, just like Industrial Revolution did it, just like all of these shifts. This is just going to be a very major shift, but it's nowhere near. In fact, in my office, and I think in many offices, you use the tool to get yourself to a platform quicker of being able to solve a problem, go after a certain task, but then you got to put the human back in. And leaders today, the leaders that are well trained at being able to relate across generations and across technology are the ones that are going to continue being the leaders, and they're going to hone the next leadership team. The ones that are resistant and the ones that are frustrated, they're just not going to sustain leadership roles that much longer.
I want to ask you about some security stuff now, because at the ISF, we often say that security is a business enabler, not a blocker. From your perspective in search, are boards today actually looking for security literate chief executives and C-suite, or is that still being relegated to a technical footnote? Because you've mentioned AI on a number of occasions there.
Right now it's hard to dodge the AI topic in culture and in security. But I will also tell you, it is, in my opinion, and in the opinion of a few people I've talked to, it's going to be one of the biggest threats to security as well. So it's imperative that we take our time understanding how to manage it within our own sandboxes, how to keep it from disseminating information we don't want disseminated. The ultimate leadership role needs to be very aware of technology as far as AI is concerned. They cannot be leaving it and relegating it just to the C-suite down at technology. That's critical. You need that person on your staff. So now take a C-suite executive who's not a technology expert by any stretch, but does have a strong CTO. They better have a working knowledge of at least the watch-outs, be able to communicate to the team. Do we have enough people understanding this new code we're writing? Do we have enough people that understand what happens if we put this on everyone's desk? Do we have it in an environment that belongs to just us? And I just had that conversation with somebody, a CEO, in fact, a couple of weeks ago. He said there's great products now, great tools being developed where the AI really is built around your organization. I have one like that too, but that still came from, and it doesn't really matter with me, but it does matter if you're a major shipping company, your telecom. If you're delivering cellular services, you can shut down millions of people all at once if we don't know how that code was written. So yes, I think it goes to say that there is some need in leaders to be able to relate to technology issues related to AI, at least be able to strategically think about the dangers as well as the excitement of it.
I'm curious as well about the state of our boards in all of this. I've been teaching a board development program at Henley Business School now for a number of years, and I've seen how the people coming through that program have evolved and changed their thinking. I would say they're probably now at the sort of curious teenager stage, which is dangerous if you put that into a board environment, right? But on the positive side, at least they understand some of the concepts, but they're still trying to figure out what it all means. How do you think we can help boards upskill? Because the world is changing so very quickly. And particularly the big difference, as people listening to this will probably understand, between some of the boards that sit on your side of the Atlantic versus the ones that sit across in Europe. There's a different structure in terms of the way that we operate. But at the core of all of that, there is still this necessity for knowledge, for understanding, to be permanently upskilling. How do they go about doing that?
Here, not unlike the way our organizations look now, blend the board a little bit more with people that have been more exposed. So you're going to see at least a blend of successful younger board members who have successfully built a variety of technologies, including the ones that are in the AI space. I think it's important that those voices are also being heard at a table. Most of the time, boards are built around people with lots and lots of business experience, and they should be. They're advisors, but you're going to need folks that have built something in a 10, 15, 20-year environment. So you're going to see some younger board members, I think, in that 40 to 50-year class. They've been very successful, and they grew in an environment where rapid technological changes were coming. I think first critical thing is a nice blended board, just like we like to see our organizations. In North America, you see that quite a bit already. I think the next thing that's important, Steve, is just because it's there doesn't mean we instantaneously, recklessly adapt, but we do need to be adapting and utilizing each other's ability to share whether it's going to work or not now. It can't be talked about later. The address has to be now, but the changes need to be very conscientious. So I think the maturity of executives that have seen people go too quickly, too swiftly, and not take a look at the blind spots. Caution is still, if anything, it's even more important right now than it ever has been, because it can get away from you really fast. So I think having people that are capable of communicating, here's the strengths, here's the weaknesses. Now, here's what we're going to do. We're adapting now, but here are the watch outs and here's how we play this, I think is critical. And it goes right back to, in a way, if you look at the overarching part of our conversation, it's been the same leaders that are blending, generational leaders need to be blending the board and blending themselves with the knowledge, the willingness to move, but the cognizant processes in which we should move this forward. We don't want to just say, hey, you can cut 20,000 customer service people because this AI tool is going to solve everything. It's going to make the shareholders really happy. Really? What happens when it doesn't work right? Who do they talk to then? Oh, we'll worry about that then. That is happening, and it'll keep happening until we're a little more careful with how we do it. The folks that are there that built the processes are the ones that need to be aware when we're going to adapt on that process.
Hugely. I wanted to ask you one thing about reputation. Now, I've read you advise candidates to be reputation proof. In an era of deep fakes, how does an executive protect their personal brand without completely staying off the very things they need to be involved in?
Perfect example of things that are wrong with AI right there. Deep fakes, right? And right now it's unrelenting. It doesn't stop. And I'm afraid for a while it's going to continue to accelerate. So I think there is a certain level of the old thinking. Keep some of your personal life personal. It's for you. You have to display a knowledge and understanding that technology and social media and doing things publicly. I myself have had to learn to adapt much more of a PR understanding than I used to have to worry about. Everything before was done on a reputational referral. People communicated, but now people don't trust that entirely. So now they do go look for you to be active and what you're doing active wise. So I think keeping it fairly narrow, pointed at what the organization's purpose is, what your purpose is. And if you want, let's say you enjoy doing something on a personal level, you enjoy your activities. Now they're visible, they're very visible. So about the only time I even engage in that sort of sharing myself is if it's related to a charitable function or if I'm doing it for a purpose that's driven. I actually am doing it because of the charity, but I don't think anyone needs to know that I played golf yesterday. So
you're taking those selfies on the 9th? No,
no,
you're not doing it
with my mug or whatever. No. But I will
find you on TikTok.
Yeah. No, they want to post it because I'm standing and we played a scramble and raised some money for a cause. It does two things. It does show that I'm actually a person outside of this, but it also shows that I'm not trying to show you what I'm doing in my fantastical life. I'm trying to say, this is something I do, and I do like to do it on my personal time. Just like our parents and your parents and our grandparents have all said, try and keep your politics and personal life out of work the most you can, which means everything relates to work because everybody's visible now. You can't escape it. So be very careful. Mind your manners, mind your behavior.
One last question for you, then I'll let you go. If we were sitting down, say, a year from now, what's the one thing you think that will have surprised leaders the most?
In a way, as fast as it's moving, I think it's going to look about like it is right now. It's just a massive tsunami of discussion about AI and how it's going to change everything. And it is, but I think we're only going to briefly be led by this loss of work purpose, this loss of what I think companies right now, the reason there's such a holdback on what do we do? Do we really slow down hiring? Are the entry level jobs all going to be gone? Yeah, probably briefly because we're having a reaction, a knee jerk reaction. But I think we're going to quickly find out that this is going to bring about a lot of different opportunity. So I think we'll plateau for a while and then we'll begin utilizing humans in different roles that are still the same role that's just adapted itself to what technology has brought for us. And I don't think it's going to look too much different in a year. I think it'll look a little different. I think if anything, we have all kinds of other madness we need to get rid of right now too, right? There's things that are going on that are enhancing the crazy, but we'll get past that. And I think at a certain point, we'll get back to being a little more human again. We're going to learn some lessons. We already have. There's going to be a blending I think, within a year. And that'll be about the most. I don't think there's going to be any more major, massive, swift changes. I think some of that is just blended with AI getting combined with the fact that there's some uneasiness around right now. And we got to get that rest back in play. And then I will say one thing. I don't know if the madness going on in social media, on media, and everything else is going to slow down, though. That I'm anxious to see. I just don't know if it'll be within a year. People are going to consume their information differently, faster and faster than traditional methods. We got to make sure that where they're consuming that, it's actually accurate information.
I think you're absolutely spot on. I think that a lot of people should listen to that and just appreciate that there is still a huge role for the individual, for the human in all of this. And yes, the tools will evolve, the tools will develop, and they're great as tools. But at the end of the day, somebody's got to use that tool. And that comes down to the likes of you and me. James, been great talking to you. Thank you very much for sharing some of those ideas and insights. Really interesting conversation. Thank you so much.
Thank you for having me. It was wonderful.
Thank you for listening. We'll be back next week with more expert insights and thought-provoking discussions. But in the meantime, if you really enjoyed today's episode, please take a moment to rate, review, and share the podcast. If you're interested in becoming an ISF member or continuing the conversation further, please do get in touch with me at steve.durbin@securityforum.org, or indeed get hold of me on LinkedIn. And remember, you can explore all our media and resources at our website, securityforum.org.